Welcome to The Third Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Ted Johnson, Jeff Barrett, Lawrence Haber, and why is this guy back? Joe Boy, and now your host, Bob Phipps.
Well, tonight we're going to switch it up a little bit. We were going to be talking about AI and what's the possible government role on it in the future. But because of the nature of our show, we wanted to be a little more topical. In Georgia was the 45th school shooting this year. And we need to talk about it. And it's going to raise some emotions here. There's a lot of issues that we've got to cover here. Why is it happening? What can we do? You know, you would think that, when I was a kid, what were we worried about? All of a sudden, a fight between a couple of schools where somebody would all of a sudden bring out a belt. That was a big deal, swinging a belt around. Those things didn't happen when I was a kid. So for those that are younger than me, which is most of the people watching the show, now you got to deal with somebody actually bringing a gun. And not only any gun, but we're going to talk about a specific gun that's a big issue today. So we don't have the normal division of people for it, people against it. We're all against it. But what can we do within the laws that we currently have? So school shootings, who's responsible? What can we do to stop? We're going to talk to our favorite San Francisco intellectual and writer, Ted John. Yeah, exactly. The Niners, number one defense, by the way. I picked them in my fantasy draft last night. Ted, we're going to start with you. Tell us what are kind of the subjects we need to talk about before we get into the details. What do we need to do?
Okay. I think I've had this discussion many, many times the last couple of years with friends, very conservative friends, and they always ask, well, where do you draw the line? And I say, I know where I draw the line. AR-15s and automatic rifles and bump stocks and large magazines, just as everything designed for war does not need to be on the street. That's the line I draw. Simple banning, pay people to get them back. And of course, we're going to hear, only the bad guys will have it. Well, it's a start. But that gun's got to go. It does too much damage. It's too lethal. It sends a high velocity projectile that hits your body, tumbles as it does. It rips through all your organs. That's why it's so deadly. Get it off the street.
Okay. Larry, we've got libertarians on both sides of the discussion today. What do you see as the issues with that or just the whole school shootings? What's your opening?
The problem I have is the same problem that comes up every time. As soon as someone says, let's ban something in particular, you start the, quote, slippery slope down to banning completely. And so while I don't want anybody to have an AR-15 is what, 17, whatever it is.
15. Yeah, 15.
I would rather, I'm thinking of the Russian thing. Anyway, while I don't want anybody to have one, I have serious concerns about banning, and I would like to know more answers here, particularly how does a 14-year-old walk in with a gun that's as big as he is and nobody notices?
All right, Joe, what's your opening thoughts?
Me, okay. Well, I think we're looking at why this is happening, and we want to blame a piece of metal for the problem, but kids are being abused. Kids are being trashed or picked on, and they've always been picked on for years. But now with social media and how fast it happens, they're not picked on just in school. Now it's after school, and it's all day long, and no one's addressing that. No one's looking at these kids are in a mental state where their only way to fight back is to come out blasting, to come out crazy. And that's not what we want. We want to fix the problems where they're at and not just go after let's go after the tool used to express their anger.
Yeah, back hell, when I was in school, I would get bullied. I was a little guy, and I would just make sure I avoided the person bullying him. But you can't avoid anybody anymore, can you, Jeff?
No, you can't. And you can't just blame it on one thing, or it's quite a complex problem. I agree with just about everybody on the panel. And to add to Joe Boy, I think it's not only bullying's been around forever, but I just think because of the high tech social media, and also a lot of the curriculum that's changed over the years with schools. They got rid of the arts. They got rid of a lot of physical activities in school. They're only, relying on reading and math. I think a lot of these kids have a lot of build-up angst where they used to run it off on the playgrounds, use their creativity,
Right.
whether it was in music or art or whatever. We don't provide them with any creative outlet. And the outlet they have is social media. And it's all war games and just these ridiculous games. It doesn't get back to the core of things, which would be to just corral their emotions. And I think we should have some kind of curriculum in school for mental health. We have health class, we have gym class. Why couldn't we have a mental health class? Have an open forum discussion with kids, have therapists sit in with them. I mean, it'd be a start.
Well,
anyway.
they have a lot of that now. The administrations, obviously, of schools have grown tremendously since, I was in school. Hell, they had, a couple of high school counselors, and that was it, but we weren't shooting people. It didn't happen.
They were shooting people because they didn't have access to an AR-15. That's why. Joe Bob's got a good point. Kids get picked on. Back in the day, I got picked on. I got bullied in 8th grade. I didn't go home and get a gun because I didn't have any guns.
Yeah, but Ted,
we had guns in the back of our trucks.
Ted, we had rifle
you.
clubs in high school back then. They were in the school. But I bet you they were locked up. What do you think, Ted?
Yeah, better supervision maybe.
No, they were in the back of the trucks hanging on a rack. Where the kids, the older kids in high school always had guns in the back of their racks. That was normal. They weren't using them to shoot people because they said something mean to them. Yeah. But they also weren't saying mean things 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and berating them through social media and constant through their phone. Which part of that is a parent's fault for letting them have the phone. But now schools are requiring computers and access to kids to be able to get access to internet so they can do their homework. So they're going to get bullied and stuff get on more and more. It is a subject that has to be addressed. But saying we want to ban this gun or that gun, that's not the answer. It really isn't. You have to look at what's causing the problem. Why are kids being picked on 24/7? How can that be fixed? Should there be punishments or distractions to stop kids from continuing to bully?
Okay, Joe. Hey, Joe. Well, it sounds like what we need to do is if we ban the social media, the percentage of kids being depressed and anxious these days is totally off the charts. Larry, so you would see not the banning of the guns as a problem. What do you see to possibly get, handle just the overall mental health issue with kids these days?
That's a whole different subject than guns.
I know.
At this point. So all I can offer is, yes, there should be more of that. But how, when, who pays for, whatever, another subject.
Well, but banning social media might be more effective than banning the guns is what I'm getting at.
Here's one for you, Bob. Hey, my kid takes a gun that I thought was locked down. It wasn't locked down properly. He goes into a school and shoots up the school. What do you say we send the parents to jail? What about that? Let's make a law for that. Let's see if that starts working and what happens.
Who agrees with Ted on that? Should the parents accept more responsibility, or should they be held responsible?
He's a minor.
Depends on the circumstances.
Well, what about the last one? What's happened in the last one specifically? Anybody know the specifics of this one? What was it, yesterday, I guess?
We do not know
yesterday?
how he got the firearm yet.
Okay, let's just say he just went home, opened the locked cabinet because he knew where the key was, and walked back to school with a full magazine and started shooting. Who's responsible?
Jeff, are the parents responsible in this situation? Should they be held responsible?
Somewhat. Obvious. I also wanted to state that back to the social media. I don't know if you guys knew this, but a lot of the big high-tech CEOs, such as Steve Jobs and Gates, they didn't let any of their kids play on iPhones or iPads or anything of the such. Which I found very interesting. So
they knew something we didn't know, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yet here we are. We talked about how the responsibility of a parent. Again, it's circumstance to circumstance. Age, I think, has a lot to do with it. If you're a young adult, it's pretty hard to hold the parents responsible. Now, in the cases where the parents gave access to the kids or turned a blind eye, which is a case not too long ago that went to court and both parents were convicted. To me, that was a good argument for bad parenting.
Gotcha. Larry, you had kids. Were they growing up in the age of social media and had to deal with this stuff?
On the cusp of it, and fortunately, they did not have the problems that younger kids are having right now. My kids are 38 and 35 now, so it's been a while.
Right.
But I would not want to be raising kids with all of what's out there right now. It'd be a disaster for everybody, which it is.
We discussed this earlier, and there was a book called The Anxiety Generation came out. Very good book. My daughter read it. Kids from 2010 on, that's when cell phones became prominent and social media grew. Snapchat grew. LinkedIn, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram obviously grew. It's the instant comparison. So granted, as bad and as anxiety inducing it is, you can be anxious, you can be full of anger, you can be mad, you can feel you're getting bullied. But if you don't have access to an AR-15, you're not going to kill anybody, or a gun. You're not going to kill anybody. You can get mad. You can call your parents. You can call a psychiatrist, but you're not going to kill anybody. Again, it's the last step, that deadly opening of the closet, the locked closet, supposedly, that's supposed to be put away.
Got it.
There you
All right,
go.
well,
Where
we're
do you
going to
put
go
your
ahead and
gun?
take our first break. We got to hear from our sponsors, and then we'll be starting up in a few minutes, and we'll be right back.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
All right, let's get back to the responsibility a little bit on the parent a little bit, and because I think that in these situations, if kids are having issues, and what about the school? So let's also talk about the school. The school knew about this. From what I understand, in this case, the FBI actually interviewed the kid a year ago. Ted, when you read into that, what did that make you think should have happened when they first found out these disturbing thoughts about he was threatening to shoot up a school back then? What should have happened?
Why didn't the parent or parents take away guns right then and there?
Yeah.
How come they didn't fix the situation right there? Kept the guns in the house. They realized he might have been doing it. The kid denied it, that he wrote a bad message, but obviously when the FBI shows up, they have a pretty good idea why they're there. Well, so again, it comes down to parental liability. It is not the schools and the police's complete responsibility. GOP, less government. Oh, now something like this happens. Oh, it's the school's fault, or it's the police's fault. It's the government institution's fault. It's not the individual's fault. It's the
Ted,
parents'
I hear
fault.
about ones like this, and I know of a situation, one of my clients' kids, he actually just drew a picture of a stick figure with a knife in class, and he's in like 4 years of therapy. Forced therapy by the school. I'm sitting here going, what did these people do a year ago? I don't understand what the schools are doing. And then he can go back to school. It's fine. Joe Boy, you've read up on this
obviously
thing.
different standards from school district to school district, and this seems like a way overaction.
The school
Much
is
more
just,
of an overreaction.
I'm sorry, but the schools are the one with the kids where he was shot, and there's no responsibility on them. I mean, my God, that's crazy. Joe Boy, what's your go for it?
Okay, well, here's my thinking is I have a son who goes to school, and the school he goes to does have police officers there with firearms to be able to defend children if there's an accident or something happens. And I pay extra, and I'm happy to do so to have that protection. Not every school is willing to or has the money to do so. I found out today that the Florida Lottery doesn't actually pay towards schools. It pays towards college grants. And so even though it says it does for schools, it doesn't actually go to schools. And I had someone from Orange County Public Schools say he doesn't get any of the money from lotteries. That's very disturbing to me because we could be using things to help with mental health and with making sure that the schools are safer. The fact is Tiberius isn't going to sit there and go to a school and think about shooting up. And he plays lots of video games, and he's on the internet, and things happen. And he's a well-rounded, good kid. Not everyone's out to get you. But when a school is notified there's a problem, they should be keeping up with it. They should be double-checking and making sure the kid's mental state is okay. And if not, say, you know what? I don't want this kid in the school. They're allowed to do that. I've seen kids kicked out of school for way light offenses. Some of them are sexual in nature and so forth, but they're light in comparison to physically hurting someone. And yet, for some reason, the school has no responsibility. I kind of disagree with that.
Well, can we
Disagree.
actually?
I said no responsibility. Still the parents' responsibility. Keep
Yeah,
going.
well, there's
Both should be
responsibility all
responsible.
around.
You're right. Both are responsible.
Okay, I'd like to hear Tiberius'
More on
thoughts
the
on
parent.
this. Tiberius, what? You're actually in those schools, aren't you?
Yeah, I actually am, and you know what? The thing is, this video is getting age restricted anyway. In fact, that kid is me. I did draw the picture, and in fact, I am still here.
Oh.
I've been in 3 years of therapy. I've been perfectly fine since then. So really, Ted, it really should be the individual's fault. In fact, I did get punished for it. So I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Well, I wasn't talking about the stick figure. You didn't have to admit that. You said we didn't want it. It was I said it was somebody else. No, I'm saying on the whole school shooting issue. What do kids talk about this thing? That's what I'm saying. We've got a bunch of old people here. Tell us about school shootings from your perspective and the kids' perspective.
The thing that kids talk about in school shootings is that some people do it as a joke, some people do it for real. You have to figure out if they're doing it for real. Now, there's a very different tactics that you can use. Mainly, it's therapy. But just having a regular counselor that's there in order to talk to kids and check up on them. Right. That is the main thing that needs to happen. I have one at my school. My dad also pays for it. It's really helpful, especially in times of stress.
Anybody got any questions of Tiberius? We're not used to having him here on the panel.
And no time is being used for this for me, because that's just me.
Okay. He's right. He actually can. Yeah, everybody understands. He keeps track of the timer, so he's putting all the time on Ted.
Well, he should.
As it
Well, he
should.
should.
be.
All right, questions for Tiberius. We got him here. What? Anybody?
Do you
Anybody.
think it was fair what they required you to do for
Tiberius?
your drawing?
Some of it was an overreaction. Again, I do agree with what Ted said, as that was a very big overreaction. But I don't blame him. This is a very Christian school, private school. I do not agree, because I know the position that they were in.
Tiberius, did they tell you can't make drawings of people holding knives ahead of time?
Yeah, no, they did not. They told me afterwards, obviously. But
Well, and that was
before time, no, they
interesting.
did not.
Yeah.
I actually, Tiberius, I want to know, after 3 years of therapy, has your drawing skills gotten better?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, they
as-
have.
They improved.
Figures to full range.
Really?
They have very much improved. I have
All right, awesome.
a lot of drawing.
So you're saying he could draw something other than a knife? We don't want to get into that.
Okay.
Yeah,
You guys are
no.
killing me here. Okay, then can I ask a question here? If we are looking at should we make the parents responsible, I think it really should be case by case. Because if a kid is learning how to drive and while he's driving he runs into somebody by accident, does the parent go to jail? Or does the kid get in trouble because he caused an accident? I don't know that it's always the parent's fault. It needs to be case by case.
Of course, that's
the guns are
logical.
secured and the kid gets into it anyway, at what point is it not secure enough? Because the kid memorized the parent's code. Does that make the parent responsible?
Yes. Yes. It
So
does.
if a few parents actually went to jail over these, I mean, I don't think many of the school shooting parents have gone to jail, and if they have, that needs to be publicized a little better, but I don't think it's really happened that much. I guess maybe once or twice, I don't know.
It has happened a
45
few
shootings.
times.
Right. That would
Well,
maybe
I-
make the parents to realize that they can't, that they're going to jail if their son, or usually son, unfortunately, does something. Could
It
that
sounds like-
help, Larry? Could that help? I mean,
It
is it
could.
necessary? We got to do it.
I agree.
Okay. So you're saying we should be making, a spectacle or whatever you want to call it of some of these things and
Absolutely. Parents need to know that there's the possibility of liability. Literally, that has just started recently. This one will make it even more so. Parents
Okay.
will start looking and going, I need to make sure the gun's locked or else. And that's what we need to go to.
So
That's
if
not
I
the
remember,
solution, but we need to go to that.
if I remember the Columbine shooting, they did a documentary on it, and they talked about these two kids, Darren Klebold and Eric Harris, and they were building up an arsenal and then building bombs in their bedrooms. The parents never came in and checked in their bedrooms. These are 17, 18-year-old boys in Columbine, Colorado. Okay, that's negligence. When a kid starts walking through, and I killed like 20 some odd kids and a couple people, and they didn't know what was going on. It took a couple months to build it up and do it, and that the parents knew nothing. That's negligence. They go to jail.
All right, this is getting interesting, and we've still got the final segment to go, but we've got to go on and talk to our sponsor and hear from them. The other thing we like to do is make sure that you watch and share. You're probably watching this after the fact. Please like and share and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, and all the good stuff, and we will be right back with the Third Side Convo.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Tibia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
All right, back to the responsibility. I don't think we quite finished with that, but there was a case just recently of some parents that basically gave this kid this car, a high-powered car. He's driving 100 miles an hour in a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, killed the person he was with, and they already are talking about the parents are responsible. Ted, if this was really made a big deal, they go out of their way. They try not to talk about who the school shooter is because you really don't, because the Columbine, as you talked about, that Columbine people, they're heroes to these people, right? Everybody talks about that. So what happens if we publicly take some parents to task?
I think that will really be effective because I think public shame does have an effect. People walk out the store and the people are looking at them. They're in the store and they're looking like, oh, you're the parent of that kid. That can have an effect. I think that basically, I think it's to the point where this is becoming more and more common. There's 300 million guns in this country. We're going to have to start throwing up roadblocks here and there to get this stuff done. You have to do it. Again, AR-15 is a way to go. Arresting parents for a parental negligence that cause harm to public safety. Yeah, I think it's going to have an effect.
If we're going to go on the gun thing, then the question is, in the cities that have the strictest gun laws, why do they have the most gun violence?
I'm not sure that's the case, Joe Boy.
It is. That's the problem. The
You
most
mean
gun
like-
laws get the most gun violence because the people that cannot defend themselves, they're just walked over about the ones who don't follow the law.
All right. Well, Joe Boy,
think
that's
the
kind of a
highest-
talking point on the right. You know how much I love talking points. So let's handle that in another show. But, Jeff, if we all of a sudden, let's assume we do say that AR-15s are something we don't want to have, that's still not going to stop the school shootings. Maybe less people will be killed, I guess. I don't know. Jeff, what's your thoughts for what we've got to do?
Well, I think aside from the guns, something that was brought up was it sounds like there's a big gap in security, federal, state agencies that don't communicate. I mean, how did they interview this kid a year ago and all these red flags, and it all went pretty much unresolved, or like weren't they allowed to keep guns in a house still? I mean, I don't understand. To me, I think there's just big gaps in federal and state agencies.
Yeah, it's too bad he wasn't set with having 3 years of therapy. The therapist would have probably recognized that he's so far off. Larry, how can we do something and still, remain a country? Because it is pretty crazy.
Unfortunately, I will go with what happens in countries that face this a lot, like Israel. Better defense, unfortunately, at a school with metal detectors And that's just the life we're going to lead till we figure out another way out of it.
Horrible.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
What's that,
I mean,
Ted?
Dianne Feinstein, Senator Dianne Feinstein, 20 years ago passed. They had a school shooting in Stockton. This guy was mentally ill. He drove down from Oregon with an AR-16, sat outside the school, and picked off about 6 or 8 kids, okay? She got a law passed in Senate, banned assault weapons.
Okay.
It was a ban that the NRA chiseled down to only last for 10 years. Mass shootings went way down. What happens after the ban comes up? We now have 45 school shootings, and AR-15s are everywhere. I think there's a correlation.
Correlation, not necessarily the reason for, Ted.
Well,
A lot of shootings.
let's put it this way.
during
It's
the
worth
ban.
looking
It
into.
still happens. So, I mean, you can't correlate that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe you can. I know Australia did. They banned assault weapons, and they haven't had a mass shooting, maybe 2 in the last 25 years.
All right. Well,
They
for the
didn't have that
okay, the
many
next few
before.
minutes, Joe Boy, we're going to go on the 30-second hourglass or our 30-second clock here, but is it really the root cause of the problem? What is the root cause of this problem, Ted? It is not the damn gun.
You're right. Oh, better parenting, better education on parenting,
Okay.
maybe better income qualifications. People get trained in better jobs to have better stress in life, not stress their kids out or fault their kids for their breakdowns in social standing. We can go all over the place on that.
Okay, good. Jeff, give me your 30 seconds on what do you see as the problem here?
Well, I agree with Ted as far as better education, better parenting, better support from government and state, actually protecting us.
Well, you mean when they find out about somebody and yeah.
Yeah. Opening communication, putting egos aside. But again, it's just it's a complex.
All right, Larry,
issue.
you're on for 30.
My 30 seconds worth is we need to get a handle on what guns can and can't do. I know Ted, for example, has mentioned that these are assault rifles. I've also read that while they look like them and they may be named like them, they're far from the type of assault rifles that he is describing that people can buy. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'd like to know it before we decide that we need to ban certain things, if we do it all.
Gotcha. Joe Boy.
I will agree with Ted. I know it's shocking, but I will agree with Ted. School shootings are bad, and we should look at ways to solve it. Yes, schools are part of responsibility. The parents are part of the responsibility. It should be case-by-case basis to deal with. I disagree that the gun is the problem and that we need to remove them and all that because it never works.
Okay,
And
your
so-
30 seconds is up. I'm going to give
Already?
you I'm giving the next 30 seconds to Tiberius and take us home here. What do we got to do? What do you see?
Okay, the one thing we really have to do is make sure the kids are okay. I mean, again, I agree with Ted. Lock it up. Do not let them have access to it. But again, let them learn and also make sure that they're okay. Put a counselor in the school. Put anything you need in order to make sure that they don't do something like that and mess up. Please, just don't.
Okay. Excellent. Well, what an incredible show today. I don't know if we solved anything, but I think we made some points. I don't think there is enough responsibility. Everybody agrees not enough responsibilities to be put on the schools or the parents. You know, and the discussion of AR-15s and guns we're going to handle for another Second Amendment thing. Incredible show, guys. Again, like and subscribe. Just check us out on YouTube, and we will be back next week. Actually, we're going to be back next week. We're going to be doing something on, let's see, we've got Peter Gallo is going to be our guest moderator, our Scottish attorney. He wants to talk about ghost guns, which is going to bring in the Second Amendment, Ted. So I'm just letting you know now. We look forward to seeing you next week on the Third Side Convo. Thank you all.